Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the January 5th, 2026 meeting of the Capital Improvement Committee. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I guess we'll go around the room. We'll start with you, Mike.
Mike Parker, Citizens Rep.
Jay Minkara, NRPC.
Brian Burke, Budget Rep.
Pete Stone, Citizen Rep.
Michael Croto, Planning Board.
Peter Plansky, School Board Rep.
Kim Kleiner, Town Administrator.
Julie Darling, Business Administrator, School District.
Brian O'Connell, Superintendent for the School District.
Okay, and on the phone with us is Kim Queenan of the Board of Selectmen. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening.
Okay. So, first order of business, is there any public input for this evening, other than what is on the agenda for this evening?
How do I respond to that? You want me to?
I think it's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda, so yeah, if you wish to come forward, any public input at this time, we'll open it up to public input.
Hopefully there'll be a dialogue, right?
So, just your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Ronald Blinas, 15 Riverview Circle. And Kim, I appreciate the heads up and the invite to attend. Excuse me, get a little organized here, please. All right. All right. Maybe, Kim, I can summarize why I think, all the things I brought up at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, and then we can discuss how we want to approach the discussion related to that. But as Michael, you made the presentation at the Board of Selectmen, and I think I made comments prior to your presentation.
Correct.
And again, I want just to acknowledge that I would have preferred to bring those comments that I made at the Board of Selectmen to this group. But the night that you had your public hearing, there was a community forum with the school board and, obviously important people regarding the school was going to be at the forum, so it was, I had to make a choice as to which one I attended, so I went to the school. So it was thus, at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, was the first time I had an opportunity to raise the issues that I did. So I appreciate now having the chance to discuss it with the full board. Or committee, I guess is a better word, excuse me. But in short, one of the things that, the essence of what I brought up is that in the school department side of the CIP, let me back up. So, I'm trying to be succinct, but there's so much involved in this. Long story short, back in this, almost a year ago, December of 9th of 2024, this was delivered to the school department. These are the on-site insight studies, which, as it's titled, is Capital Needs Assessment, and was for each of the 3 schools in town. And they range in length from 63 pages for Campbell High School to 47 for middle school and 57 pages for Griffin Memorial School. And in that, each one of those produced a specific recommendation for a 20-year assessment. Now, what's interesting is if you look at the assessment, in fact, I think it's important to note that I'm sorry if I should have highlighted this. This estimate was developed, oh, I'm sorry, I can't find that. Was developed based upon assumed useful life of items. And with that, they then went to RS means, which is a standard for construction estimating across the country, and developed, okay, based upon the existing assumed or understood life of a product, is it at its end of its service life now, or where is it in its life cycle? From that, they produced a 20-year capital needs assessment and did it for each one of the schools. And I don't know, has anybody looked at them in any detail, by any chance? Okay, if you have.
From the beginning.
Excuse me?
From the beginning. Yeah.
Good, good. The importance is these are looked at from the standpoint of repairing what's there today. And I will acknowledge that. And that's an important distinction between some of the other things we'll talk about, and I'm sure the superintendent will bring up. And in that, what was their timeline began 1 year after the presentation of this. So their timeline of the 20 years begins now. And the reason for that is, obviously, you get it on December, your upcoming budget, and so therefore you needed a year to digest and make some plans and react. So the 20 years, according to them, begins now. That's the important thing that I believe needs to be understood here. And that brings me then to this summary sheet that I believe I sent out to you folks, which takes all of the items within this for each one of the three schools and identifies the major subcategories that they used in here and puts on that timeline of 20 years what will be expected expenditures. And the total of that, of all three schools, is just over $28 million. And for GMS, the number is 7.7 million. And I want to highlight that that actually includes about $1.5 million for specifically the 1930s building. So if you want to subtract that because they're not using it, it puts GMS repair to bring it up to what they consider serviceable condition. They didn't say what it was. GMS now is considered to be in fair condition. The other three schools, interestingly enough, are only considered to be good condition, even though they're quite a bit newer. Not very good, not even excellent, only good. So my expectation is that the numbers in here would at least bring GMS up to a good current condition. All right, so in LMS, the total over the 20 years is $7.4 million. And then, interestingly enough, for GMS, it's our largest structure, so I guess it's to be expected, it's $13 million, and that totals up to the almost $29 million. So if you look at that, this is really the essence of what a CIP is. This is exactly what a CIP is. Unfortunately, or what gives me pause is that it appears the whole timeline for this recommendation is shifted out 5 years. The first major, there are some additions in here, but the first major addition occurs in the CHS LMS in the year 2031. And that is the $2 million, and again, as everybody knows, it's pretty small print. So over $2,660,000 or thereabouts. In the first 5 years, between now and then, according to this, we're supposed to spend $5.8 million. So there's a difference of about $3 million. So where does it go to? It should be up in this front. The reason I believe it's important is it does point to, we have obligations that are occurring in this timeline that you have now in your 5-year window that I believe are not there. And because of that, all of a sudden, there's more expected money to be spent within this timeline. The difficulty that this presents is already we're at astronomical year numbers for expenditures. It's nearly $3 million a year. Is that right? Am I right? Okay. If we bring that other $3 million back, that puts us up almost $4 million a year in capital projects. Where's that money coming from? There's a few places where we use impact fees, but the rest of it is taxes. My point being is, it appears that the capital programming for the 2 schools is not fully included in here. And the 5.9 is only for the 2 schools. I deducted the GMS, assuming that that is being handled in the improvement project that's being considered. The reason I'm trying to state this is there needs to be an understanding of what, your job is simply put together a plan, I understand, and yours is, you are not here to debate the pros and cons of one versus another. It's clear you're putting some sort of priorities on things, and I think that's about as much as you're expected to do and you intend to do, and that's fine. But what I believe that you have to do is you have to make sure everything that's potentially an obligation of the town is there, so that we can see the demand of the total of the town and understand what kind of condition are we in budgetarily. And so that's my concern that I raised with the Board of Selectmen, and it was the questions that I brought up. They said, well, we don't have an answer for, and you raised some interesting questions. The reason this is so important is now we start to compete with those tax dollars for all these other things within the town, not just the school. And there's not enough money to pay for them all. And so that's what I think is understated here. And then a couple of other recent concerns that have been brought up regarding the new school, and you're going to hear them. And if you've been listening to some of the debates, the school department has started to challenge the on-site, in-site numbers.
When do you want me to jump in and
Well,
just
let-
answer some of these questions? Like, and I'm not trying to be rude, but like,
No.
I just want
Okay.
to provide context to the different parts. If we're going to shift to the building, can we address some of those concerns?
So
and
I
answer those
think,
questions?
are you almost
Yes.
finished yet? Okay, and then I'll let you guys respond, okay?
And the reason I want to bring this up is because I've made assertions that the on-site, inside report is a viable and realistic estimate of repairs needed at GMS. Now, recently, to debunk that or challenge that, in the recent discussions, the superintendent noted that they've had their consulting team go back and look at the on-site, inside report, and they come back and say, no, that number is not $6 million, it's $23 million. The reason I bring that up is if that is how we're going to do business here, then if in fact that is correct, then all the other numbers need to be inflated by the same amount. So instead of $28 million, it's closer to $60 million. The problem that I have is, and quite honestly, I think there's too many people playing junior engineers here and throwing around numbers without proper evaluation and consideration and engineering prowess. And I'll stop there.
Okay, so I'll give you folks an opportunity to respond to.
So we have a capital improvement plan for the district that we developed that is based on the on-site and off-site reports. We have presented this at multiple meetings. We have presented this at school board meetings. I've shown you drafts of it here. I've done this at facilities improvement committees along the line. In it is a note that I will read verbatim for this point. Note, based on the December 2024 on-site and site reports with the following adjustments. Budget items shifted 1 year as FY '26 budget proposal already finalized, and reserve trust fund items shifted 5 years to allow reserve and trust funds to grow. We have been transparent and open about that since the beginning that these reports were presented to us. These reports are extremely helpful reports. I'm very proud of the work that's included there. It really helped us develop this plan. Those 3 reports for the 3 schools are assuming in capital reserve money, the district was sitting on $12.25 million. Right now, we're at 300 something?
Yes.
300 something thousand. We cannot follow the schedule in these plans unless we were sitting on over $12 million in reserve funds, which we do not have. So we've had to adjust our capital improvement plan to align with that and shift things around. And we have put warrant articles starting last year at looking to improve our reserve accounts. Likewise, we have decided to focus, rather than on that report for GMS, on a bigger project that encompasses everything in there, along with educational needs for that building. That work is ongoing. I expect an update Wednesday at the school board meeting when we present to the board. But in terms of why what is being presented in the town CIP is different than the on-site insight reports, it's right there included in our capital plan. We are not sitting on the reserves to make that schedule a realistic possibility for this town. We have been transparent. That capital improvement plan goes all the way out to 2049. You can see everything we're planning to do. It's going to change probably 1,000 times between now and 2049. I'm certainly not going to be here in 2049 to make sure that is executed, right? So like it's going to change, it's going to update, projects are going to need to move up in importance, move down in importance, whatever the case may be. Funding sources may change here and there. But we use those reports, they're great reports, and we use that to do this plan. In those reports also is mentioned throughout that they are not a capital improvement plan. They are current on the building's capital needs assessment of where the buildings currently stand. That's a huge difference. That engineer would say, do not use this as your capital improvement plan. Written in the report in numerous lines is you would need to go get additional information about, say, your heating systems, about this, about the engineering, all that. It's included in the report throughout. For example, she paid no attention to the insulation at GMS, right? There are various parts of that building with 0 insulation, which means we are just pushing money out the door when it comes to some of our utilities there, right? But that's not a current standard for the building, so her work did not include pricing that out and evaluating that for us. That's why there's going to be differences when we have professional engineers such as Harriman and Harvey who are pricing out the things included in that report.
Question.
Yeah.
Explain to me the difference between 12 million and 300,000.
Right, so we put reserve funds around, the district does, right? Where we could take money that's available to us at the end of a fiscal year, as long as a warrant has passed previously, and we can take that money and put it into a reserve account, which allows us to access it for special purposes in the future. For example, we have a couple of different facilities-related accounts. One that's built more on new construction and renovation, and one's that more for generic repairs. Both have about $300,000, a little bit more north of $300,000, and actually only one does. The other we're utilizing for GMS services right now, right? But that repairs one is just over $300,000, which would be the type of work we're talking about in these on-site insight reports. A goal of ours as we have came on is to increase those reserve accounts. There are other districts, school districts, for example, that every year put significant money into those reserve funds so they can do the facilities work as it comes up as needed. When they have a capital plan, they target it. Give you a prime example of what we're trying to accomplish here in this district. CHS is about a little more than 25 years old. The roof in another 5 years is going to be about 30 years old. It's going to be up for replacement. Last year we had a warrant article to put $250,000 aside into that repairs line with the idea of building that up and targeting 2031 as an opportunity to fix that roof, replace it, and related things connected. If we're replacing the roof, we might as well look at the HVAC and possible electrical stuff and everything connected to that. That's included in that capital improvement plan. The engineer came in because she works with districts throughout New England that approaches things different. I'm not saying pro or con, there are pros and cons to reserve funds and approaching things to that way. So I'm not saying good, bad, in between. Just the reality is, she made an assumption that there'd be millions of dollars in those reserve funds. The reality is we don't have that money in our reserve funds, which is fine. I'm not saying that's good or bad, just like there are other districts who approach it differently who have significance in the reserve funds.
Yeah, but what you're saying, those reports were based on faulty assumptions.
Well, I don't know if it was faulty. She was just using,
Incorrect.
like, again, she's not
Incorrect.
saying, those reports are not, this is your capital improvement plan, right? It
calls
is
it a
a
planning
model, yeah, it is a planning tool that allows you to make decisions off of it, right? Her planning tool showed in the theoretical, if you had this money on hand right now, this is how you could budget it for the next 20 years to accomplish all this stuff. We don't have that money on hand. We talk it through, like she came in and presented at a board meeting where we talked through different options on how we can make this happen, focus on certain projects. Like when you remove the GMS section and you look at just LMS and CHS, because there was significant work just completed at LMS specifically around systems and operations, right? Because CHS is not quite at end of life for a number of things, so we have a little bit of time to build some stuff up. It made sense following the reports for those two schools much more closely. GMS isn't such a different thing. Like, there's just systems they're just not applicable anymore to what we're trying to do, right? And we're trying to look at a project that not just, like, I can't stress this enough, the GMS project is not just operational fixes, it's educational fixes as well. We have space issues down there, we have other issues down at that school. That's why that project is different, and we haven't focused on lining it up by years on how to do that, because we're looking to do a bonds project that's going to take care of many of the things that are going to be included, that are included on that on-site insight report.
So what would you tell me if I'm going to turn the pages on these reports to take away from that? Is it just a framework? Is it
Yeah,
just
I think it's great. Like, I'm not an engineer. Julie's not an engineer. We're not facilities experts. So to have someone from the outside come in and help us say, like, hey, you got to do these things together at once, right? Like, if you're going to replace the roof, also do this, this, and this.
But
don't try and do that in different years. That allowed us to have that roadmap and allow us to do that.
But
hey, if you're going to replace this thing in say 2030, you can expect 10 years of life expectancy out of this thing. So budget it again in 2040, for example.
But she did this assuming that you had 12 mil in the bank.
No,
She didn't do anything with any assumptions. She just did it as a way to report out on where our current facilities were, right? When she talked about the funding pieces, she did use some assumptions based on reserve funds, which is normal for this company to do things that way, right? Like, that wasn't like a slight on her part or anything like that. It was a way to just show in today's dollars and then using some multipliers there. Like, one, the importance of, like, if you're going to tackle something, this is the first thing you should tackle. And then, like, showing you how it could look like in terms of groupings together where your major expenses are and stuff like that.
Thank you.
And then, like, I don't know if you read them yet, but I would read them. Like, they're very fascinating documents. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of narrative included in it that the engineer who came in who did it that gives context to why she made some decisions on some of the pricing and the groupings and information.
She's gonna have to fill in the blanks on assumptions that she doesn't have any insight into either.
Right.
Right, so that's probably why it looks like a discrepancy, but there's no way you can accurately plan the next 20 years. Doesn't matter what the manufacturer says an end of life on a piece of equipment is, because they can't tell you exactly when that end of life. It could be a year, it could be 20. You know, I mean, manufacturer or whatever will say, hey, we expect a given life out of here, but that's just used for like financial burn down normally. It's not the reality of that piece of equipment's like the service.
And when I keep
Right.
saying reserve funds, there's other ways to come up with that money, right? Like, you could bond that, right? Like, if we wanted to take on do all these projects in the first 5 years, if we felt that would solve all of our problems, is to do the first 5 years in this report, we could go out and get a bond for $12.25 million and take care of that stuff, right? I don't think that's a smart idea for this town or for our school district to do that, right? Like, if you're bonding that large of money, we'll solve the real problem, which is GMS, right? Like, and you can work on the other two buildings, which are in good condition, where you're not reaching end of life expectancy on major things quite yet. You can get a little more life out of things. to approach it in this matter is a better thing for our district. There are other districts that may see that and say like, hey, we're just gonna do a bond and take care of all this stuff, right? Or if you're in Massachusetts, they're a New England group, they do work throughout New England, using Massachusetts as an example. I mean, they throw money at schools, right? Like, so coming up with $12 million is not challenging for them in their kind of, their model way that they deal with education funding down there, so.
Okay.
I think another thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan or Ron, when they talk about replacing stuff in the on-site insight report, they talk about replacing it in kind. So it's not updated technology, it's, the boiler is from 1950, it's replacing a 1950s boiler. We're not gonna replace the 1950s boiler with a big old honking boiler.
What it does do is it replaces functional boiler with a current equivalent. That's what it does. So it's like, if my boiler went out of my house, I have a 180,000 BTU furnace. I can go and buy that for $4,000. Or I can buy a $30,000 one and try to save myself a couple $100 a year. That's the difference, is they are simply doing the current replacement of that, which is fine for another 30 years.
Isn't there a difference between current replacement and in-kind? In-kind is,
No.
I have a 72 Chevy, I'm gonna get another 72 Chevy.
No. In kind is, look, I'm not gonna go out and buy a 1989 boiler to replace the one that fails in my basement. I'm gonna replace it with a 2025 that has 182 BTUs. That has, I can probably swap the burner over on it. And the connections will be exactly the same. Or I can go, and I know people have done this, I can go get the latest technology. Instead of spending $5,000, I can spend $30,000. I can take you and show you, a couple of people have done that, to save some money that will take years and years to pay back. What is the on-site insight report is to replace with a current equivalent what is there now. And I'll give you the example. The current plans for the new GMS has, instead of using oil, there's a note on the plans, steam room. What does that mean? We're gonna convert the whole building from a hot water system to steam. Why? How much are we gonna save? Right now, you spend around $200,000 a year heating GMS. If you saved $70,000 of that, but had to spend $5 or $6, $7 million to get it, is that a wise choice? Instead of replacing the boilers in the existing boiler room, connecting to the existing boiler pipes, upgrading pumps where they need to be, control systems, which are all identified in these reports, for several $million versus 10 to 15, what's the best solution?
I would think I would have to do the math.
So, and I also think, like, to focus on these reports, I'm gonna read there's lots of bullets in here, and yes, I am cherry picking one that makes my argument, like, just being transparent, but, like, it highlights some of the issues here. Like, this is in the GMS one, this is bullet 25. Interior room temperatures in the first grade classrooms, that's the 60s part of the building, which is the worst part of the building. I hope we can all agree on that. Are reported to not be consistent, and in some cases, staffs have to use shutoff valves on the heating risers to control room temperature. An allowance has been carried in year 2 for, a mechanical engineering review of the building and develop a remediation plan. A placemaker allowance is carried in year 3. The actual cost of this project could potentially be much higher depending on the overall findings of the 1958 and 1962 heating distribution systems. So as we've been doing with this GMF working, the Harriman engineers have come in, have specifically targeted that part of the building to say there is zero insulation. Zero, none whatsoever. That sounds like it's related to heating with me. It sounds like they're doing a mechanical engineering review of how everything's going there. They showed us a chart throughout this process. This was part of multiple community forums about how our energy usage, they called it like miles per hour for energy. I'm not an engineer by any stretch of imagination. We're at like $1.67 per EPU or whatever it is at the high school, 1.64 for the middle school, which is like normal. And then all of a sudden it spikes to like 2.67 at GMS, which they're like, because you have no insulation, right? So there's something like yeah, we can just replace the heating, but if you don't replace the insulation and redo the walls, it's all for naught. And that's gonna cost a ridiculous amount of money.
It is not, Brian, and I'll tell you why. The major insulation is in the roof. When you replace the roof is done that's insulated when you do that. How many walls are an outside wall in a classroom?
At least one in like every classroom.
One, not four, one. Like that wall right there versus all these three in here. If you go on Bob Vila's, this old house, and look up.
But doesn't the roof need to be replaced at GMS? You're just making my argument even stronger, because
Yes.
not only is that weak, that's weak there. It's going out from everywhere.
And that
And don't
cost,
even talk about the floors that are uneven in the 60s room. Like,
that cost to replace the roof is in the on-site inside report.
Mr. Chair, if I can just interrupt. I mean, I see the on-site report, and Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think a lot of like what you're discussing right now really isn't our purview as far as the school presented to us, the school presented to us their CIP plan. And we took it and put it in a spreadsheet and worked it up. I see the on-site report as a guide as to repairs that are needed, things will be needed over the next 30 years, and that's their discretion of
Agreed.
how they want to do it. Well, now we're talking about Bob Vila's house, and I don't know where we're going with this. It's like you missed a meeting because you couldn't go to it. If I'm correct, that's how I'm understanding why we're here.
No,
That's the way it was presented, that I saw it, that you went to the select board.
I did.
Because you couldn't make it to this meeting, so they said, we'll go back and go to the CIP and have a meeting.
okay, we're here.
So, the way I look at it is, the school presented to us their CIP plan.
Yep.
And we took it and put it in the plan.
You did. My point being is, what they did is they didn't follow the recommendations in the
Okay,
plan.
but again, it's a recommendation.
Well, hang
It's
on.
not, it's not gospel.
Well-
It's recommendation.
It is in the sense that you were charged with, in my mind, developing a plan that the town is potentially obligated to have to fund, either yay or nay. Isn't that kind of what this is about?
Well, that's gonna be up to the voters.
No, but I mean, your charge is to put together what you think, based upon input from other people, what the capital expenditures by year is going to be.
But we don't do that in whole cloth. We don't put it together. We consolidate what we get from the departments,
And
from the school board.
And I'm
We
here
consolidate it.
I'm here to offer you that I believe what you're getting is incorrect.
Ms. Kleiner, I know you,
That's my point.
your hand up.
So I'm struggling here. I'm struggling, and I wanted to listen to the comments this evening in addition to the comments that were made at the Board of Selectmen. The plan that has been put forth by the administration and the school board, I understand there may be some differences of opinion in what you might consider from the on-site insight reports is important to what is developed in the overall plan for GMS. But having come from a school district and sat on a school board and sat and remodeled 4 schools, I will tell you, we had extensive reports similar to the on-site reports. And when we went to renovate those 4 schools, it did not align with the costs that were developed in those plans. Having dealt with Harriman and Harvey, I would hope that those are the numbers that are being listened to as you're moving forward with your plan. But they are not going to align with the number in those assessments.
And you
They're just not.
You bring up an interesting point then. So if in fact, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you don't want to use these numbers as expected truth, then the numbers for LMS and CHS need to be inflated in here by the same amount that you think GMS should be inflated.
No, not true.
Well, why?
Because the buildings are in
They're
vastly
different.
different conditions.
Yes,
Not only
they're
that, I mean,
completely
year over
different.
year, the pricing to do the work is going to change. The
Absolutely.
material costs are gonna change.
Absolutely.
Labor costs are gonna change. You're never gonna be able to pin it to a static value. That's an impossibility.
These plan, the
There's
capital
too many
improvement plan
variables for that to happen.
is exactly that, a plan. It is a plan to give you an idea. When we got here, this district, and I'm not trying to say any shots at previous administrations, it's not what I'm about to say, but there was zero capital improvement plan for the school district. Nothing laid out about the work. We have a plan of the work that needs to be done. We have rough estimates of the timing of when that work can be done and the funding that can be, how to get that done, and how these things can be grouped together. That is not gonna be the final end-all, right? We have targeted the roof at CHS at being about $2.1 million when it comes time to do that in 2031. God knows where we'll be in 2031 when it comes to money and funding and stuff like that, right? Like, we don't know. COVID, for example, rocked us. I don't think we'll have another COVID, but like that completely threw every plan that was out developed before it out the window, right? Who knows where we'll be 5 years from now? But we got to do something to start to plan for it, because if we show up in 2031 and ask for $2-something million for a CHS roof, we're never going to get it. But if we've put money away for 5-6 years at $250,000, $300,000 a pop, and we're within the ballpark and say, hey, we've already saved $1.5, $1.7 million towards this project. We only need an additional X amount. Or, hey, we'll save for 2 additional years. The roof's in good shape right now. It's not an immediate fall apart kind of situation. We can hold off for 2 years because we want to do this a little bit more. We're in such a better position financially and from an operational standpoint to achieve that. We have to have some sort of plan. The onsite, again, I'll say it again, I love the onsite and site reports. They helped us develop a plan, but that in itself is not a plan for how we're going to address everything. Especially when it says you should be sitting on 12.25 money right off the jump. Like, we're not sitting on that money. I mean, if someone wants to make a motion at deliberative and give us an additional $12 million next year, we'll take care of all that stuff. Like, that'd be great.
Were you trying to get us in trouble?
I'm just saying. like, I think that's a key part of it. Like, that's why we had to make adjustments, and we're not following
I
that
mean, and to
report
be honest,
letter
I
of the
mean,
law.
say you do need to replace the boiler, and they start taking it apart, something else might be damaging this
100%.
assembly, right? I mean, these are just things we don't know.
Our HVAC failed in one of the portables this summer, right? And so we had to replace that because we had to replace the HVAC in the portable, correct? We have classes in there. That's not part of this
Right.
anytime soon, right? Like, things change, like the world adjusts, like whatever it is, things
That's why we
break.
do the CIP
Fair.
every year, to allow for those variances.
And those forecasts are in that number, or in that report.
For next year, for this year?
We actually had to
Next
spend
year.
a lot of extra money on that because there was so much rot around where the units were that we had to replace that as well, so it was actually.
And they
a lot
didn't see
more
that until they
expensive.
took it out.
What's that?
And they didn't see all that damage until they pulled the
Correct.
equipment out.
Exactly.
And that's kind of the point, right? You just can't assume somebody looks at it and be like, oh yeah, that's perfect, I can tell you the entire answer.
Sounds like
Finish
my
my
kitchen last
comment
year.
this way.
So,
It's just like getting
yeah,
an estimate
why
on your
don't,
car.
so is there anything
Let me
else
finish my
that you
comments,
wanna
And then you can do it.
just comment on? And,
What I recommend you do is, and I understand what the superintendent's doing, he's moving things out 6 years from now. And that's when, if you go into the spreadsheet that he presented to you, essentially moves everything out 6 years. And it's $15 million behind that. After the 2 million. Who pays for that and where does that come in? The problem is, it's not just the 2 million, it's 15 million behind it. There's $3 or $4 million in the next 3 or 4 years after that. And then if, if in fact a school gets passed for $38 million this year, with a finance cost of 60,
Where are you getting that number from, Ron?
well, I got it from the forum.
$38 million?
Yeah.
I don't think we presented and realistically are entertaining a $38 million
Well,
renovation.
that's what you, excuse me, it's 35. It's 35 for option one, it was 38 for option.
But at the board meeting, we totally
squashed that.
stopped talking about that stuff.
Yeah, we're not anywhere, it's still a big number, but it's not that number.
Well, you haven't decided yet.
No, but.
What has been presented by the consultant,
Right, but that's not our number.
anyway, there's gonna be a huge number. That if it passes, that becomes added to in the next 15 to 20 years, all right? And then everything else has to come for that. Look, I don't know how much, you know, what do you pay a month in taxes now? It's a lot. Simple fact is, let me just finish that.
we tried to
Here's what I recommend you do. I actually recommend that you put in the full amount that's in these reports, in the column, you know, you show some of the, in the, one thing that's difficult is over here you show, you need another column, is what is the total expenditures for this project over whatever years? And because if you just have something that goes out 6 years, where does it continue on? What's the
But
continuation?
we have that. Our capital improvement plan is
I know.
public. You can, anybody, anywhere, can go online and look all the way out to 2049.
What I'm just,
Nothing trying to be hidden here.
I'm trying to just simply state that there needs to be some recognition of the years after this plan, because if you're looking at add bonds for 20 years, you need to know what's gonna be in.
It's on the.
It's the last,
period.
it's the last column.
We have the bonds, if we are aware of a bond value, are on the plan.
No, I'm asking, you need the total price of capital improvements over 20 years,
But the
whatever.
potential funding sources and
The
the
capital
totals are
improvement's
on
not
that
targeted
plan.
at a 20-year window, it's 6.
And that's the problem. After the impact fees are gone, there isn't any potential
That doesn't,
funding fees.
I don't understand, I'm still struggling on how we're holding up the CIP plan for 2026 to 2030 for discussing items that are gonna be needed after 2049. And I'm probably throwing myself totally under the bus here, but I have a capital plan that I've worked on with the town departments on what's needed for vehicles and equipment. Goes out 30 years, it's over $10 million. You don't see that here. Why? Because there's gonna be, after we look at what we can possibly put into a reserve, there's going to be other ways that we are going to come up with and replace those vehicles. Whether it's a Clean Fleets grant, like we've already done, whether there's gonna be many different ways. I'm only presenting to the CIP committee what we are expecting to spend from 2026 to 2031. That's it. That's all that this committee is deemed to look at. We're not deemed to look at 50 years in the
And if
future.
we know it, you're putting out a grant, we mark it on the calendar. If it's coming from a different funding source and we know that, it's noted on the plan.
But I'm still not giving you $10 million.
No, I
Which is in 30
understand. I mean,
years.
we don't know, we don't know.
And Ron, the other thing that the CIP committee has, I mean, since I've been on the board, which is since its inception for
6
this
years.
plan, is we try to, with Jay's help, spread it out as evenly as possible from year to year so that there aren't any spikes as far as the impact on taxes. And where's that money gonna come from? That's not our concern. Because the voters will vote for it if they want. It's the capital improvement plan. It's what's needed for this town, for its infrastructure, to keep it up, to code to levels that they need. You also don't see, there's other buildings that possibly will be there. Is there an impact? Absolutely. Is it needed? Absolutely. Will it be voted on? I don't know. That's gonna be up to the voters. And what could happen next year is the school could turn around and say, listen, we can't wait 5 years for a roof, we need a roof now. And then they'll come to the CIP plan, it goes on for this year, or next year.
And then they justify their warrants and they put the warrants out if that's what the individual boards wanna do.
And that's what's actually happened, is I believe the what is on the Inside Insight is based upon a reasonable. I don't know why somebody made the decision that a company that does this across the country, recognized as a premier company doing assessments of huge, huge structures for capital assessment, and people base their budgets upon them, why all of a sudden we think that they recommend considering doing the roof this year on CHS before it starts to leak. Why we think we can just automatically push everything out 5 years?
Because we don't have the money.
You don't have the money.
Doesn't
We
make
don't have the money.
It doesn't make
Come on,
any.
I'll answer your
Wait,
question
wait,
when
wait.
it's statement
Okay,
made.
all right, hold on.
Who's gonna pay for it?
You don't have to decide that.
That's correct.
You need to say, what is the obligation?
Well, the obligation is you should replace that elementary school about 25 years ago.
Oh, I won't argue with there.
So like, what are we
We
doing?
didn't.
Like,
We didn't.
You need to build a time machine, man.
The point is, back to you, you're obligated to put down what is the reasonable expenses that we think we're gonna incur. The On-Site Insight report says that beginning today, this is the timeline that, you know, whether you argue it's a little up or down, this is what they recommended. My question is why and who decided that we'll just shift that 5 years?
The school does. That's their responsibility.
I understand that,
Okay,
but
we
you,
just
as the
asked-
board, need to say, I don't think that was appropriate. What basis
so
of that?
should we have included all of this money that we are certainly not going to get passed or spend in the CIP right now?
Yes,
Okay, well, there you go.
Make some adjustments.
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds great.
you're not here to make that decision, are you?
We're here to prioritize what the projects or the capital improvements are,
As presented.
and to provide that information to the Board of Selectmen. That's really our role.
Yes.
And I think, there's, I mean, the school has a facilities improvement capital committee that's doing their work. Our work is a little bit different only because we answer to the Board of Selectmen, and really, we're providing them information about what's going on with the school. It's really the school's purview, what they want in terms of the plan going forward. So I don't know if it's something that maybe, because I think from what I'm hearing, it sounds like maybe this is something that you need to take up with the school more so than with this committee, because this committee is really charged with providing a generalized plan for that 6-year window and providing that information to the Board of Selectmen to make determinations on whether they want to pursue warrant articles or put things out there for vote. Whereas the school and the Facilities Improvement Committee for the school is more specifically tasked, it seems, with GMS and what they're going to do with it in the future. So we appreciate your comments. I do appreciate it. I think that it's good information. I think it does help to understand things. But I think it's really where you want to go, I think, is really with the school board or someone of that. That's just my opinion.
So if I remember correctly, you provided the committee with the on-site insight reports.
Correct.
And I believe our response was, will you please go back and determine from those reports what is realistically your plan in the next 5 years?
Yep.
Number one, that you can even tackle to work on, because let's be honest, we only have so much capacity. Number two, some of those numbers are going to naturally change as you look at how you approach different projects. And so we asked you to actually come back with a realistic plan only for the next 5 years.
Yes.
Which is what you did. So I believe they did what we instructed them to do.
And I'm sure they looked at all the other capital improvement efforts that we're gonna wanna across the town, because they have to balance their needs of monetary change to the town with all the other needs from all the other departments, right? It's just, it's not that cut and dry.
And also
Balance
that,
and try to sort that out.
that met the definition of a capital improvement for the purposes of the CIP, because there were definitely improvements and costs in there that didn't. So those also kind of got flushed out.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Oblinus. We appreciate you coming in. All right. Let's see here. I will go to the approval of the minutes, but before I do that, I'm just going to jump. Is there anything else that anyone wants to discuss this evening? So at this time, I am going to close, we've had public input, I'm going to close public input at 7, is that 23? So we are closing public input, there will be no further public input this evening. Anything else that brought up by the board? Anything? Okay. I'll go to the approval of the minutes from November 3rd, 2025. Does anybody have an opportunity to take a look at those? Have any questions? Does anyone want to approve them?
Put the motion to accept and approve.
Okay, I have a motion by Pete. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mike. Any further discussion? Do we need a roll call because Kim's on the phone?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. All right, so we're going to do a roll call vote because Kim is on the phone this evening. So, Mr. Plansky?
Aye.
Mike Croto, aye. Kim?
Aye.
Aye.
Pete Stone, aye.
Okay. And
Aye.
Mike Parker, okay, so motion passes 5-0-0. Okay, thank you. So I think, for this time, I think what's gonna happen is you, Kim, you can, obviously, go back to the Board of Selectmen, let them know that we did have a public hearing tonight on this. I know that they tabled the capital improvement plan, and maybe they can, if they wish to vote on approving it, having had this public input this evening, so.
May I ask for a vote of this committee
Sure.
to bring it forward to
resubmit?
the Board of Selectmen on January 12th for approval?
Okay, we can make, anyone want to make that motion?
I'll make it. Apparently that's my job tonight.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, so it's motion by Pete, second by Pete, Mr. Plansky. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Oh, actually, no, we got a roll call, sorry. We have someone on the phone. So roll call, Pete.
Aye.
Michael Croto, aye.
Pete Stone, aye.
Kim?
Aye.
And,
Mike Parker, aye.
okay, so motion passes 5-0-0 to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, any other business this evening?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, my motion by Mr. Plansky, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Stone. Any further discussion? All those in favor will roll call. Mr. Plansky.
Aye.
Michael Croto, aye. Kim?
Aye.
Pete Stone, aye.
Mike Parker, aye.
All right, motion passes 5-0-0. Thank you for joining us this evening, and stay safe out there, and we'll let you know when our next meeting is. Have a good evening.
By the way, I was watching you at the